The gavel struck wood, sharp as a pistol crack. "Next lot," the auctioneer bellowed, sweat slicking his brow. The crowd shifted, boots scuffing against sun-baked boards, the air heavy with dust and whiskey breath. Then came the sound of chains, iron dragging across planks. A figure climbed the block, tall, broad, wrapped in burlap, a rough sack tied over the head. The boards sagged beneath her weight. A ripple of laughter broke loose. "Lord above, that's no woman. That's a draft horse. She'll eat more than she'll keep." Voices cut and jeered, meaner with each echo. The auctioneer raised his arms. "Gentlemen, here she is. A bride for the taking. Strong back, stronger bones. Who'll start at $1. Silence, then a bark of laughter. A coin clinked against wood. $1. Another voice, mocking. $1.50 for the giant mule." The crowd roared. Someone spat tobacco juice at her feet. She didn't move, didn't flinch, only shifted once, a slow turn of her head beneath the sack, as though measuring every voice. The bids faltered. Men who'd shouted now turned aside, grinning but unwilling. The sun bore down, a red fire on the town's main street, shadows stretching like gallows ropes. A voice came low, steady. "2." Heads turned. At the edge of the crowd stood a rancher in a dust-worn coat, hat brim pulled low, boots scarred with years. His face unreadable, his hand holding out 2 silver dollars that glinted against the heat. $2, he said again. The auctioneer blinked. "Well now, $2 it is. Any takers? Any higher?" Silence. Not a breath, but the rasp of wind through the hitching posts. The gavel slammed. "Sold." Jeers erupted like gunfire. "Fool's bride. Paying good silver for a sack. God help him. He'll need it." The rancher walked through them without a word, the crowd parting in grudging curiosity. He stepped up, hands rough, steady, and helped the giant woman down from the block. The burlap shifted as her feet touched dirt. Her head turned, the sack brushing against his shoulder. Then she spoke, the first sound since she'd been led forward. One word, a name. It cut the air sharper than any bullet, a low voice heavy with iron, soft yet unyielding. The crowd stilled. Laughter died in throats. Even the auctioneer lowered his hand as though silenced by church bells. The rancher's eyes lifted, just enough to meet where her gaze must be behind the cloth. His jaw tightened. He gave a small nod, nothing more. The town breathed again in mutters and whispers. "Did you hear it? Never thought a name could sound like that. Best he keep her on a short rope." But the rancher did not listen. He placed the silver on the block, turned, and with the sack-veiled woman at his side, walked out beneath the blazing sun. The storyteller's voice lingers, and so it was on that scorched day. A man gave $2 for a bride with a sack on her head, and the desert took note, for it knew this was no bargain struck in jest, but the beginning of a tale carved deep into canyon stone. The gate screeched on rusted hinges as the wagon rolled through, wheels crunching dry earth. A lone wind cut across the canyon, whistling through broken fence posts, carrying with it the smell of dust and old fire. The woman climbed down first. No sack now. Her face caught the last embers of sun, strong-jawed, scarred at the brow, eyes like stone pools that had seen too much and told nothing. She moved without hesitation, lifting the water barrel from the wagon as though it were no heavier than a saddlebag. The rancher followed, silent, leading the mule to the trough. His gaze lingered on her as she hefted the barrel to the porch, shoulders broad beneath the fading light. Boards groaned under her steps. Coyotes began to yip from the ridge. The sound scattered across the night like mocking laughter. The woman turned, head tilted, listening. Then she bent to the trough, filled a tin cup, and drank slow, steady swallows, never taking her eyes from the dark. The rancher struck a match, flame flaring against his weathered face, and lit the lamp. Shadows leapt across the cabin walls, long and lean. Inside, the air smelled of cedar and smoke. He set the lamp down, turned, and there she was, standing in the doorway, silent, her presence filling the small room. The fire snapped. He poured coffee, slid one cup across the table. She sat, hands scarred, nails broken, veins roped beneath sun-dark skin. Steam curled between them. "Fence is cut," the rancher said at last. His voice was gravel. "North pasture." She looked up, eyes narrowing. A single nod. Nothing more. Boot prints in the dust. Wire clipped, post toppled. Someone had been through, bold enough to take cattle, bold enough to circle near the house. The rancher sipped. The woman set her cup down slow, careful, as though measuring the weight of the moment. Outside, the mule shifted restless in the dark. He leaned back, gaze on her across the lamplight. "Rustlers," he muttered. Her jaw flexed. She said nothing, but her hand, scarred, steady, curled around the handle of his old rifle leaning by the door. She lifted it with ease, checked the chamber, and set it back. The lamp hissed. The fire cracked again. The rancher's eyes lingered on the rifle, then back to her. "You handle iron like you've known it long." She did not answer, only held his stare, calm, unwavering. Later, when the fire burned low, he spoke again, softer this time. "Lost my wife. My boy, too. Fire took him. Nothing left but this place." Silence stretched. Her eyes lowered to the flames. Slowly, she reached across the table, her hand rough as rawhide, and rested it on his. No words, no promises, just the weight of it. The desert wind sighed against the shutters. The coyotes fell silent. And in that hush, the storyteller's voice whispered. Two broken souls sat by the fire that night, and though neither spoke it, the desert knew something had shifted. Something waiting in the dark. Hooves thundered down the canyon road, dust rising in choking clouds. The rancher stood on the porch, rifle in hand, eyes fixed on the riders kicking up the dawn. Metal flashed at their hips, voices rough with laughter. The gang pulled up hard, horses snorting, leather creaking. At their heads sat Colt Brannigan, long coat whipping in the wind, mouth twisted in a grin that never reached his eyes. "Old man," he called, voice sharp as spurs on stone. "You bought what ain't yours." The rancher didn't move. The rifle stayed steady against his shoulder. From the doorway, Mara stepped into view, her shadow long across the dirt. Brannigan laughed. "There she is. Thought you could hide from me, Red Hand." The name cut like a blade. Murmurs rose among the men. Mara's jaw tightened, but she did not answer. Brannigan spat. "Told these boys I'd find you. You think a sack on your head makes you someone new?" He leaned forward in the saddle, eyes burning. "You belong to me. You fought for me. You killed for me." The gang shifted, uneasy, staring at her, as though seeing something they half believed, half feared. The rancher's gaze slid to her face. No flicker of doubt, no step back. Mara's voice came low, even. "Not yours. Not ever." Brannigan's grin cracked wide. "You hear that? The legend speaks." Red Hand Mara broke Skull's bare knuckle in the pits, made men beg for mercy. "In a town west of the river, don't whisper your name." He raised his pistol high. "Tell him, old man. Tell him what kind of devil he's keeping." The rancher's voice came calm, gravel steady. "She's Mara. That's enough." The gang shifted again, boots scraping stirrups, uncertain. Brannigan's laugh was hollow this time, brittle at the edges. "You'll hand her over, or I'll burn this place to the ground." The rancher's finger curled tighter on the trigger. "You'll try." The silence that followed was thick as storm air. Dust swirled between them. Horses restless, iron clicking in nervous hands. Mara stepped down off the porch. She moved slow, deliberate, her eyes locked on Brannigan. Each step pressed heavy into the dirt, each step pulling the moment taut. "You think I ran," she said, voice low but carrying. "But I chose. I chose to leave your pits, your blood, your chains." She stopped at the yard's edge, shoulders squared. "And I'll never go back." Brannigan's grin faltered, teeth bared more in anger than mirth. His hand twitched near his gun. The rancher's voice cut across the tension. "You come here with fire, Brannigan. You'll find we've got plenty to give back." The gang murmured, uneasy again. The outlaw leader's face twisted hard, pride stung before his men. He spat in the dirt, eyes narrowing. "Then you'll die together." He wheeled his horse, gun lifting, his men following. Dust rose like smoke, carrying the promise of blood. and the storyteller's voice broke in a hush. So it was the past road out of the canyon that day, and the ranch knew the hour of reckoning was close at hand. Gunfire split the dawn. Boards shattered. Dust leapt from the porch rail. The rancher fired back, shot measured, deliberate, each echo rolling against the canyon walls. Brannigan's men hooped and circled, bullets sparking against stone, horses screaming as lead tore the air. The cabin shook with every strike. Smoke and grit thickened the breath. Inside, Mara kicked the door wide and strode into the yard. No cover, no hesitation. The rancher shouted after her, but she kept on, tall against the rising sun, dust curling at her boots. A shot cracked past her shoulder. She didn't flinch. Another whined near her ear. She kept walking, broad shadow stretching long across the dirt. Brannigan spurred forward, pistol raised, coat snapping behind him. There she is, he howled. The beast herself. Mara bent low, ripped a fallen rifle from a dead man's grip, spun it in her hands as though it had always belonged there. The next shot she fired punched a rider clean from his saddle. The gang reeled, curses rising sharp, eyes wide at the force of her. The rancher's rifle barked from the porch, dropping another. Smoke drifted, acrid and heavy, mixing with the copper tang of blood. Brannigan drove straight at her, horse pounding, pistol steady. "You're mine, Red Hand." Mara swung the rifle, the stock catching his mount broadside. The horse reared, Brannigan tumbling hard to the dirt. His pistol clattered free. Dust swallowed him. She stepped in close, rifle thrown aside, hands closing on him like iron clamps. He clawed for his belt knife, but she seized his wrist, bones grinding until the blade fell. His scream cut sharp, swallowed by the canyon. The rancher held his fire, watching from the porch as the circle broke, Brannigan's men scattering, eyes wide at their leader in the dirt, beaten by the very woman they'd come to claim. Mara drove him down, knee in his chest, her scarred hand crushing his gun arm. He spat, teeth red, snarling. "You'll never be free of me." Her voice came low, steady as stone. "I already am." With a twist, she broke his grip, the pistol hand ruined. Brannigan howled, rolling in the dust, clutching the shattered wrist. The silence that followed was heavier than thunder. The gang, stripped of its fire, fled into the hills, hooves fading to nothing. Only the wind remained. Mara stood tall, chest heaving, dust and blood streaking her skin. The rancher stepped down from the porch, rifle lowered, gaze steady on her. For the first time, a flicker of something passed across his face. Not sorrow, not weariness, but respect deep as canyon stone. The sun crested the ridge, spilling fire across the yard, painting them both in golden shadow. And the storyteller's voice carried soft. So ended the hour at Canyon's edge, where a rancher and his bride stood unbroken. Folks still tell it, how $2 bought not shame, but a legend. And the desert remembers, for it does not forget the weight of truth.